Call the meeting to order. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Persick.
Here.
Alderman Kirby Hall.
Here.
Alderman Van Dyne.
Here.
Alderman Kerwin.
Here.
Alderman Hall, Larry Hall.
Here.
Alderman Tudor. Here. Alderman Studer. You have a quorum.
Thank you. I declare that the regular meeting of the Wilmington City Council on July 8, 2014 is now in session. Council approval of minutes for June 17th before you.
Mr. Mayor, reviewed the minutes and found no errors. Ask that they be accepted as presented, please not file.
I have a motion by Alderman Studer. Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Kerwin. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Studer.
Yes.
Alderman Kerwin.
Yes.
Alderman Persick.
Yes.
Alderman Larry Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Kirby Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Tudor.
Yes.
Alderman Van Dyne.
Yes.
6 yes, 1 pass, motion passes.
Next item on the agenda is the public hearing. We have a motion to open that up.
I do, Mayor. I move to approve, I'm sorry, I move to open the public hearing at 7:01 PM to discuss the proposed fiscal year 2015 appropriation.
Motion by Alderman Tudor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Persick. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Tudor.
Yes.
Alderman Kerwin. I'm sorry, Alderman Persick.
Yes.
Alderman Kerwin.
Yes.
Alderman Larry Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Kirby Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Van Dyne.
Yes.
Alderman Studer.
Yes.
7 yes, motion passes.
All right, at this time, the public hearing for fiscal year 2015 is now open. So you all know this has been on document for, we have it on past 2 weeks now. I don't know what the date is anymore. We had it out there.
June 18th.
This is June 18th. So it's this time for the public to provide any input in regards to this year's proposed fiscal year 2015 appropriation. If there's any questions or comments from the public, this is the floor is now yours. We have both our city administrator and our financial accountant here to answer any questions, and then after that we'll refer to council for that. So this time the floor is open to the public for any questions. Right, why don't we go ahead and do this, Kevin, Tony, you guys want to just kind of highlight some of the key points in regards to the budget, then after that time the council, we have no input from the public, we'll allow the council to ask any questions, and some questions may come up from the public for you guys, for discussion in regards to this. Kim, the floor is yours.
For our fiscal year 2015, we're estimating total revenues to be $15,477,722, and we're estimating our expenses to be $16,866,661. That is across all funds citywide. So we are projecting to use $1,388,939 of fund balance. And like I said, that is across all funds citywide.
Kind of explain how the fund balance thing works.
How the fund balance works is from year to year, we may get money in 1 year and don't spend it all in the year you intended on spending it. So that money then increases your fund balance. The next year, then you're going to spend that money. So that can result in what appears to be a loss, which actually you're just using your fund balance from the previous year. So, we have numerous funds across the city. So some funds are going to appear to show, so to speak, a profit, will be positive when they end the year. Some will be negative. Some of those funds that show up as negative is really using money that wasn't spent from the prior year. That's the easiest way I can think of to understand.
Kind of as an example, with the $150,000 we had set aside last year for city hall improvements wasn't spent, so that money reverts into the fund balance because we intended utilizing it this year under this year's fiscal budget to spend that.
Right.
That's the best way to explain it.
This is the simplest way. We're not accounting people.
Tony, do you have anything to add, or?
Well, it's a work in progress, very short work in progress. The next Tuesday's finance committee we'll have an update. There are some proposed changes, which is basically more getting the dollars more accurate in some of the funds, because we know some of the expenses that are coming in. Today we had the opening of the bid for the city hall, so we'll plug in the actual numbers of what those are. And it came in under our projected bid estimate. And then we're also working with the police department to get on salaries of when those officers will start. One, the replacement officer, they still haven't selected that officer yet, but they are down to the wire with one candidate that qualifies. Hopefully after today, we'll have a date when that person will be eligible to start, and then we'll plug in his salary to be more accurate, because right now we have it as a full 10 months of salary for that officer. And then one more additional officer, understanding when that person might get hired, when it goes to the PTI school, might not be until the end of September, October. So we have a little bit of salary numbers we have to get more accurate, and then some of the projects, and then especially with the storm this last week, we'll clean up a little bit too, and some of the accounts where some of the expenditures were made, because we definitely had a lot of fuel costs in regards to some fuel running the generators and things like that. But that's stuff that Kim and I will work on with the department heads the next day or two, and get a more accurate final numbers for next Tuesday, and we'll be able to present that to the finance committee. The one thing to be very cautious, as we have been the last couple of years, is our fund balance is, sort of staying, stable a little bit. We're going to have about $200,000 that isn't going to be allocated, but that's a low number. I mean, we should be starting to build that number up, and hopefully this year will be our year of turnaround with some new revenue coming in from Bridgeport and some of the others. But we didn't include all that revenue in this year's budget, just portion very conservative. And we also, in regards to the water and sewer funds, we didn't change any of the fee structures yet, because we're going to talk about the fees and reevaluate those in September and October. But we just used the current fees, which does balance those accounts out. So we'll have to talk about if there's going to be any rate structure change for next year, like we did in January of this year. It's a little more work to do. But next Tuesday, after the finance committee meeting, it'll be on city council. We need to approve a budget so it can get filed in a timely manner, so it'll be in for the appropriations. And we have to file it by 31st of this month. That's where we're at.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
First of all, Tony and Kim, I appreciate your work on laying out the expenditures and the revenues of all these funds, and I do also appreciate you pointing out that there are money in the funds that were not used last year that are kind of showing an offset there that's kind of shocking. But what I'm looking for, and I think the comfort zone that I think some of the aldermen here are also looking for, is we're trying to ascertain what number we are using out of the fund balance that isn't money that was set aside from last year that needs to be used this year. Do we have an idea of how much fund balance that we're drawing against that isn't money that was earmarked from last year to be spent this year?
Well, 1.3 million, 900,000 of that is actually on the police facility.
Understood.
So we have about 450,000. Some of it, 150 of it was the city hall improvements we're going to do. But we could break that out in more accurate numbers. A lot of it's just small numbers, in each fund. One was not used. But generally, it came from big numbers, the police facility. We haven't expended those funds yet, so we haven't carried them over. We received the revenue last year. So,
But you're not telling me that we're using $400,000 in fund balance to balance the budget this year, right?
We're using probably about, from last year's fund balance, which was a little over 400,000, we're probably using about 200,000 of that.
In the reserves, that what
Yeah.
you're saying, that's, I guess
The
that's the word I'm
reserves.
looking for.
Reserves.
We're using 200,000 in reserves to balance this budget this year.
Yes.
That's, that number's higher than what we had talked about in our budget meetings. So significantly lower when we were in the budget.
Yeah, we're about 80,000. We're up about 130,000 right now. Part of that is we got more accurate revenue numbers. Talking, I went back to the businesses and really asked them to tweak their revenue numbers for us on sales tax. And when we went back to House of Trucks, talking to the actual accountant, found out that about 40% of their sales tax is actually comes in, doesn't pay sales tax because it's ICC, it's interstate sales, so they don't pay the sales tax. So that number they gave me was a little high, so we got it more accurate. So the reason the number changed was our revenues changed, our expenses didn't. And that's why we have to go back and really look at our expenses now to see where we can maybe bring those expenses down. Since that revenue stream that we had projected was maybe a little more than what we know we're going to receive. So hopefully by next Tuesday, we'll have that broke out for you and try to get that $200,000 fund balance use maybe down by $50,000 or $60,000. And that might be a reasonable number, but much more below that. I think we're sitting right about, we use probably about 150 of the fund balance. Just the way the costs are coming in right
And
now.
does that take into account the additional expenditures with the storm and everything that you guys referred to earlier?
We'll have to look at that. I'm hoping
So
it
it's
does.
possible it'll be a little bit more, but I can't,
I mean, I got some
Add to
numbers,
that, I
I
guess.
got some numbers today from the department heads, what was expended. I mean, we know we spent $90,000 on the generator for the water plant to keep that up and running. We had a lot of fuel costs out at the wastewater plant, that we had to keep that generator up and running, and along with this generator. So we're looking at maybe about $25,000 and cost to, for the storm, right at $30,000. So we gotta try to pick that up someplace possibly in the budget. And we'll be seriously pulling the budget apart again to see if we get these numbers closer. And Kim does have some ideas that she'll bring up to the finance committee that maybe what we can do is even if we do have a fund balance that we use 150, we're going to create a contingency in the budget itself. So all those projects or things that we think that we might do, but maybe are not high priority to do, their need, we'll put that into a contingency. And once it's in a contingency by policy that the council can pass, and actually under the accounting rules, anything in a contingency budget cannot be expended by a department head without city council approval. Not committee approval, it'll have to be a city council approval. So if one of the checks and balances we could put in, since we're getting kind of close, is we're going to propose that next Tuesday, is to move some of these dollars into a contingency budget. So we'll keep an eye on the revenue streams. If the revenue streams look like they're doing good, then we could maybe expend some of that contingency. If it's not, then if it's not a priority, I mean like a life safety, a public health safety priority, those projects will be put on hold. Those expenditures. So hopefully that'll help a little bit more management, fiscal management controls that we put on. And that'll at least keep the council aware and department heads to understand where we can't spend the money unless it's an absolute need.
That's part of that 250,000 that we have left, that's not called for.
200 some odd thousand.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
But those,
correct.
we line up projects that are in that contingency, because every year we have in our budget, I think it's pretty common, every year we have projects that tend not to deliver, we don't get to it. You can see with the fund balance, it happens every year, it's not uncommon. Where you may show those negative numbers, but that's just not projects you're hoping to do. The revenue don't come in, those projects don't get in, and get pulled into the next year. Just a process.
So we'll be working on this. So next Tuesday, 6 o'clock, Finance Committee, we're going to dedicate time to go through this. Page by page we have to. 6 o'clock. Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Hey, Tony, when you try to discuss the expenditures, whose expertise do you use to decide what to take out and what to keep in?
Department heads for one, and the other is trends. If operating trends sort of give an indicator, you know, we don't want yes people, you know, just to say, okay, take that $10,000 out, that helps you make your budget work. I'll maybe try not to spend it. Now, we'll look at the actual trends, 5 years of expenses, and then we actually talk to department heads and truly ask them, you know, hey, this trend is showing for the last 5 years, 4 of those 5 years, you actually spent this much money in operating. So maybe we need to really look at that number, instead of maybe being $8,000 for supplies, maybe it should be $6,000. It sounds tedious, but every $1,000, a couple $1,000 we can find in anybody's budget. Before you know it, you got real dollars. Could have $30,000 or $40,000 that we're gonna put aside in contingency. And we could put a contingency of operating supplies. That's just there, so that, just in case, we do have some operating costs that we don't have control over, like a storm or something like that, then we would have to go into that contingency fund. And those are basically how we come up with the numbers. Trends are usually the best. And then we do ask, department heads to do go out and get some forecasted dollars on some of their supplies from their dealers, to say, is there anything that will be going up on a certain chemical or a certain use. And then we do go to the public, the private side too, and look at trends with oil, and we know oil is something that's gonna hit us, especially with asphalt costs and with gas and oil. So we'll look at some of the futures and see where they're showing, where the gasoline prices are gonna be. So we're not in a bubble, because we're public. We wanna try to get the best numbers we can, even from the private side.
How about services that we provide to the citizens? How do we decide if one certain service is not important and one is?
You know, it's basically things that we can bring to your attention, saying that this service is costing us this much money, and then at committee level, you can could debate if you want to continue that service. We can look at some of the services and then have that sort of dialogue at the committee level. But we can break out some of those costs and some of the services and see what that is.
The other thing I would like to add too is we did budget very conservative real revenues. So there is potential that we could recognize more revenue than what's in this budget. However, my preference is not to overstate revenues, so that we don't, intend on millions of dollars coming in that are not true ever going to happen. So this budget has revenues in it that we feel are going to be fairly accurate. But like I said, we didn't budget for any increases. We may not have accurate projections on the revenue that could be coming from some of the development that's just starting. So there is some factor that we could see a slight increase in some of the revenues. But to be on the safe side, let's budget to what we feel is a true number. That way there, we're not spending money that we don't have.
So does the police show we're in negotiations of the contract right now? Is it showing? There's no pay increases for them currently right now. You're going by the old one? So this could change.
Any cost factors that I believe might be impacting this budget have been forecasted.
You forecasted it already, and that's in here.
Without revealing what those numbers are, you say.
Right. All I'm asking is it in here? I'm not
Yes.
saying tell me the numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
Break down the practice, I think we should do that every year. Throw a number in
Okay. He knows where I'm going.
there. Yeah. All right. After all this debate, is there any questions from the public? We get a motion to close the public hearing?
Move to close the public hearing at 7:18.
All right, motion to close the public hearing at 7:18 by Alderman Studer. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Studer. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Tudor?
Yes.
Alderman Studer? Alderman Kirby Hall?
Yes.
Alderman Larry Hall?
Yes.
Alderman Kerwin?
Yes.
Alderman Van Dyne?
Yes.
Alderman Persick?
Yes.
7 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. All right, next item is mayor's report. A couple things that are not written down here, but as you guys all know, we're a week behind in our normally scheduled council meeting. We were supposed to be here last Tuesday, but as we all know, we went through, I guess, what they call a double ratio. We learned new words this past year.
What is that?
Polar vortex and double
It's a
ratio.
really good story.
Real high winds.
Straight winds.
Yeah.
Road is the other.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing I really want to highlight throughout this whole process is we all know the heavy storm came through about 10 o'clock last Monday night. One of the things that was very well evident was our emergency crews, not only our police and fire, but especially our ESDA. As soon as the storm passed, was out there and about, I was out there too and seen them all out there, assessing the damage, not only from their standpoint, but also from the standpoint of our water plant, our wastewater treatment plant. All available hands were available to be available were out there. And at no time throughout this entire process was any of our utility services, our water and our wastewater especially, at any real serious risk to the public. The guys were on top of it from the standpoint, I think our Jack, our water department superintendent, at 1 o'clock in the morning was calling up Sunbelt to make sure that generator was there prior in that early morning. Even though we still have 60% reserves in our tanks, we were plenty well stocked with water. In fact, the water guys that night had anticipated this potential storm coming and had actually kind of put a lot of water in our towers and filled up our towers before this storm came. The communications between all our department heads as well as police and fire and ESDA was excellent. They were on top of things. Challenge we had was we had numerous trees down, numerous power lines down, which resulted in numerous road closures. But that was also communicated among all the department heads and the emergency personnel where those closures were. The challenge was getting ComEd out here. As we know, this I don't know how, they said from Morris down south of Wilmington all the way to the state line was the extent of this damage. Over 400,000 people without power. But we were on top of everything. From a city standpoint, we have what they call an external affairs manager with ComEd. We're in contact with them all the time, regardless if it's emergency or non-emergency. We always have communications with them. ComEd also established what they call the JOC, which was a Joint Operational Command, which is something that they hadn't had in the past. This was the first time they activated the JOC, which was out of, for this area, was based in Joliet. The challenge was there seemed to be a disconnect between our external affairs manager and the JOC. That became even more evident, I believe, Wednesday afternoon after the conference call, at which time I drove up to the JOC myself to kind of reiterate the damages, the extensive damage that we had in this area. That proceeded. I think most of the town was without power, but probably Thursday afternoon. We had pockets coming in. It got serious enough that we actually invited the vice president of ComEd out here Thursday to see the extent of damage. He came out here Thursday, got a really first-hand look at what we went through. And everything came in place. I think the amount of crews that they had out there and the extent of damage had really caused them a shortness of crews. In fact, I think many people, some of the people talked to the crews who were out here were from everywhere from Montana to Massachusetts to Kentucky. We're out here working on our crews Thursday. I think we had over 18 crews here Thursday working on our power line damage. But all in all, everything's doing fine. We still have leaves to pick up, or brush to pick up. Our city crews doing a hell of a job with that, but they still do have areas they need to get to. It'll take a little bit, but they'll get them. They continue to work hard, as well as everybody. Even from the wastewater treatment plant, they had to run that generator a lot longer than we wanted to. Even when we had power, we still had some power issues, so we got that straightened out. But I just want to say kudos to all the city crew, all the city staff, for everything that they've done to make sure we were on top of everything throughout this whole storm, and hopefully we don't have to see another one anytime soon. So it was good, it's good to see everybody come together. And I mean, not only just with that, but just with neighbors. Even myself, I had a neighbor 2 houses down that had a generator, and we had extension cords going throughout the neighborhood to ensure that everybody's plugged in, saved their fridge. So not only neighbor for neighbor, but even business. We have businesses in town, Evans Lawn and Garden, Whitmore's, Sippy's, that even though they didn't have power, they were there to help their customers in any way they could. So it was good to see, and that's what's, really important in this small town. So. But again, thank you for everything. The next thing, I have two things. One, we all know she's back, but only to support her son. But I would like to call Miss Helen Hoppy up for me. Up here. As we all know, I think I started working with Helen back in 2005. We were both aldermen together, and it was, with health concerns and stuff like this, she's had to step down from office. But what I'd like to do, Helen, is present you with this certificate to Helen Marie Hoppy for your outstanding performance as fourth ward alderman.
I will try to tell you if I can, but I haven't enjoyed, I think it's been 9 years that I've been on here, and I have enjoyed it, and I've talked to a lot of everybody here that I really like. I'd like to be able to stay and not have me could come back, but I can't. But it doesn't mean I won't be in another year or two. We'll see what happens, but I thank you very much. Really, thank you very much.
All right, as we know, with Helen, with her issues, the health issues, we did have a spot to it open. We did have several people from the fourth ward express interest in obtaining that seat, and I talked with many of them. But the one I chose, or the one I brought forward for you guys tonight, is Mr. Steve Evans, who actually has to be the son of Helen. So Steve, if you could come up here, please. Or do we need to do a motion first? Yeah, we can stand up there, we'll still do the motion.
While you're coming up, Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the mayoral appointment of Steve Evans as a fourth ward alderman with a term to expire in May 2015.
Motion by Alderman Kerwin, do we have a second?
I'll give you a second.
Second by Alderman Kirby Hall. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Kerwin.
Yes.
Alderman Kirby Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Persick.
Yes.
Alderman Larry Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Tudor. Alderman Van Dyne.
Yes.
Alderman Studer. 7 yes, motion passes.
Before we swear Steve in, as I've talked with him, the one thing that really stands out with Steve in my discussions is the passion that he has for this community. He's willing to work hard, and as we can, as you hear, everybody says the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and as passionate as Helen was with her job, I'm sure Steve's going to try to fill those shoes at good sport. I'm really excited to have Steve be part of it. We need to come up here. I think Helen's going to come up too.
I never used to say that to him, but.
You guys have it. Okay. Just give us that. Put your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
faithfully discharge the duties
of Fourth Ward Alderman
of Fort Oakland
for the city of Wilmington according to the best of my ability.
for the city of Wilmington, to the best of my ability.
All right, Steve, you gonna take care. There, you already got your name up there? You guys sit over there, Steve.
Yeah, she can.
Oh, sorry.
Wave.
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 No, Alderman Evans, it's good to have you aboard.
Thank you very much.
All right, the next item on the agenda, the mayor's report, is the mayoral appointment of Darren Fowler as water reclamation plant superintendent.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the mayoral appointment of Darren Fowler as Water Reclamation Plant Superintendent.
A motion by Alderman Kerwin, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Studer, any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question. Where do you live at, sir?
Where do I live at?
Yeah.
Currently, I'm driving back and forth from home,
And where is home?
Monroe, Illinois,
How many hours is that from here?
2 hours on the way.
At this point, are you planning on moving this way or
Yes,
what?
sir.
When?
As soon as my girls' softball season ends. I was driving so much that it was pointless to have my apartment. I lived in an apartment there at Doug Favero, across from the Grundy State Bank, up until 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks ago. And because of driving, I was driving so much, I wasn't ever staying there, and the cost was just too much, so I gave up the apartment, so I can drive till the end of the softball season. And it won't go back. It's all just financial, that's all it is.
So you're gonna move back to the apartment or you?
No, I'll just find another one until we've been looking, shopping for homes. We've been talking to Ridgeport. There's a house out there for rent. There's some other places. We're looking over in Coal City. We're also looking here in town. I've been working with Beth Cheney, and she's been sending me listings about everything.
See, the only problem I have with the whole thing is 2 hours, and if we have another storm like we just experienced, and our head man's not there, I do have a problem with that.
It's understandable. I had a call from Patrick at about 10 o'clock, and I was here on site about a little after midnight. So I got up here as soon as I can, worked all night. Actually, I put in about 27 hours a day. So, and we got everybody into a rotation. We put Pat on days, Jim on Sundays, myself on midnights. That way we can cover all shifts.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Kerwin.
Yes.
Alderman Studer.
Yes.
Alderman Persick.
Yes.
Alderman Larry Hall.
No.
Alderman Kirby Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Tudor.
Yes.
Alderman Van Dyne.
Yes.
Alderman Evans.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no, motion passes.
Welcome aboard, there, Darren. Thank you. Not that it's already been there for a while.
And just one more, I do understand Larry's concern. Again, it was all financial. I'll get that taken care of.
It's understandable, but I think at the same time, you have a couple good guys that are underneath you, not you would rely on, and that, you know, in all events, I mean, they were there to take care of stuff, we understood.
Yep.
You know, one of your employees did have some structural damage to his home, you know, during the onset of the storm, and I know you guys worked together in ensuring that he handles, you know, was able to take care of his own personal issues. You guys doing that kind of cover, it was great. I mean, I think everything was good.
Yeah, and again, it's totally understandable Larry's concern, I appreciate it.
All right, citizens' comments, do you have any citizens' comments?
I just wanted to let you know that the coalition's meeting next Monday at 8 o'clock at the fire department, and you're all invited. And I would also like to thank the police and fire departments, as did all the city department, for the excellent job they did last week. And just thank God we didn't lose anybody. But you all did an excellent job.
Is it in the morning?
Huh?
Yes.
All right, any other citizens' comments?
Hi, sorry with you. I just like to say thank you for appointing Darren. I was one that was unfortunate enough to have the tree go right through the roof, and my wife was right there.
My pacemaker's
Right, I can't do this two weeks in a row.
Sorry about that.
2 weeks in a row is not gonna work. I just want to say thanks to Darren and Pat for covering for me when the tree went through my roof. My wife, besides being hysterical, Darren and Pat covered for me, and the other problem I have is I have sleep apnea, so it's hard for me to sleep when the power's out. So I was able to get a generator from our church, but the people that came out and the people that saw what we had going on, I just want to say thanks. Because Darren wasn't exactly thrilled because of what happened, but he understood. And Pat, I showed him pictures today that I took on my phone and was stunned. So I want to say thank you to whoever came out, whoever looked at what was going on, and people, for all of our city departments. It helped. My wife was a basket case. And it's not easy to deal with somebody that's a basket case when you have sleep apnea because you can't sleep. So, thank you again.
Thanks, Jim. All right, any other citizens' comments? All right, Planning and Zoning Commission, their next regularly scheduled meeting is for Thursday, August 7th, 2014, 6 o'clock p.m. Committee reports, Building Grounds, Parks, Health and Safety, Alderman Persick, Alderman Van Dyne.
Mr. Mayor, the next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, August 12th, 2014 at 6 p.m.
Water, Sewer, Streets and Alleys, Alderman Studer, Alderman Kerwin.
Mr. Mayor, our next scheduled meeting is August 12th, 2014, at 5:30 p.m.
Police and ESTA, Alderman Studer, Alderman Tudor.
Mr. Mayor, our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, August 12th, 2014, at 5:30 p.m.
Wait,
Those can't
that's
be-
something's not right.
Yeah, that's not right.
Yes.
It
Should be the
Should
13th.
be July, whatever.
Water,
next-
sewer,
The
streets and
13th.
alleys should be on the 13th.
Tuesday, August 12th.
Correction, so Water, Sewer, Streets and Alley will be Wednesday, August 13th at 5:30, and
Tuesday,
Tuesday and
August
ESDA will be August 12th.
There we go.
Correct.
All right, moving on to finance administration and land acquisition. You want to continue with that, Alderman Studer and Alderman Tudor?
I've got the first one. I move to approve the accounts payable report dated July 1st, 2014, in the amount of $516,502.64.
Motion by Alderman Tudor, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Studer, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Tudor.
Yes.
Alderman Studer.
Yes.
Alderman Evans.
Yes.
Alderman Van Dyne.
Yes.
Alderman Kirby Hall. Alderman Larry Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Kerwin.
Yes.
Alderman Persick.
Yes.
8 yes, motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the escrow agreement between Ridge Logistics Park 1 LLC and the City of Warren.
Motion by Alderman Tudor, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Kerwin, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Studer.
Yes.
Alderman Kerwin.
Yes.
Alderman Persick.
Yes.
Alderman Larry Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Kirby Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Tudor.
Yes.
Alderman Van Dyne.
Yes.
Alderman Evans.
Yes.
8 yes, motion passes.
One more, Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the work agreement between Ridge Logistics Park 1 LLC and the City of Warren.
Motion by Alderman Studer, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Kerwin, any discussion?
Yeah, just somebody briefly remind me what this is.
And this is basically from the Michelin deal, as we're separating out properties and developing different entities. Scott Niederman, the attorney, working with their attorneys, this is more of a cleanup to clearly identify the responsibility of the improvements, that are public improvements, and also the private improvements. So it's in writing of who's responsible and duties.
Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Studer,
Yes.
Alderman Kerwin,
Yes.
Alderman Persick,
Yes.
Alderman Larry Hall,
Yes.
Alderman Kirby Hall,
Yes.
Alderman Tudor,
Yes.
Alderman Van Dyne,
Yes.
Alderman Evans.
Yes.
8 yes, motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, next scheduled meeting is next Tuesday, July 15th, 2014, at 6 PM.
Ordinance and License Committee, Alderman Kirby Hall.
So is my next scheduled meeting next week? No.
Yeah.
That's
Is that so?
it's Tuesday,
That is
August
correct.
12th, there's is correct.
That is correct.
All right, cool. Well, my next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, August 12th, 2014, at 6 PM.
Personnel and collective bargaining, Alderman Hall, Alderman Persick.
Nothing at this time, but we do have an executive session.
City Administrator report, Mr. Graff.
Yeah, I do have an update. The OSLAD grant application for 2014 was submitted actually the day before the storm came. Thank God we did, because the computers were out the next day. But Joey Ziller actually picked up the ball on that one, because last year we submitted our grant. We got a few comments back, and we're working with the state in regards to these funds, and resubmitted our grant application. The main thing that they wanted was they wanted a little more connectivity of how the entrance is really connecting to other park amenities. Was one of the places where we scored kind of low on, because our vision plan is really not a full-blown design plan. So we cleaned that up a little bit and put more specific language on how the entrance does improve the park amenities. And then we added, due to the fact of the fitness center in the downtown area, we put a connection to where, for bike trail coming over the bridge, will come into this area. And we created what we call fitness stations for outdoor. That's one of the top priorities right now, is health and welfare of our residents, and to provide outdoor activity for them. So they really strongly recommended that we probably score high for that entrance area. So we did have a nice location where we could put some of the fitness activities out there. It seems to be the park trends nowadays. So we were able to get everything completed. We didn't have to come back with any type of new hearings or anything like that, because everything that we did the year before is good up to 5 years. So by submitting to that grant, we're hoping to be able still to get funds to pay for those lots at the entranceway. That's it.
That's it. Attorney's report, Mr. Urban.
Thank you. From a legal standpoint, it's been a quiet 3 weeks. About the only thing of any real significance was I did appear in court on the severance lawsuit, and court did vacate the judgment order against the city. And that's all I have.
Thank you, John. Need a motion to go into executive session?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to go into executive session for personnel at 7:43.
A motion by Alderman Larry Hall, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Tudor. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Larry Hall,
Yes.
Alderman Tudor,
Yes.
Alderman Persick,
Yes.
Alderman Kerwin,
Yes.
Alderman Kirby Hall,
Yes.
Alderman Van Dyne,
Yes.
Alderman Evans,
Yes.
Alderman Studer.
Yes.
8 yes, motion passes.
Executive session.
I make a motion to come out of executive session. What time is that?
Looks like
8:22.
A motion by Alderman Larry Hall, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Tudor. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Larry Hall,
Yes.
Alderman Tudor,
Yes.
Alderman Persick,
Yes.
Alderman Studer, Alderman Evans,
Yes.
Alderman Van Dyne,
Yes.
Alderman Kirby Hall,
Yes.
Alderman Kerwin.
Yes.
8 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. No action to be taken tonight in regards to executive session. Our next regular city council meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July 15th, 2014, at 7 o'clock p.m. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Yep. All in favor?
Joe, is that you?